am going to put that up on Instagram because Sean's face to me just is...
It looks troubled.
Complete. Yes, because he's thinking, I could have been in Orlando making TikTok videos with 15 really good-looking young ladies. And instead, I'm here. Mm-hmm. What am I doing here?
Welcome to the Lariat Lounge. This is the home of smart takes, hard hits, and real talk. I'm your host, Everson Godfrey, co-host Andrew Skeens. Skeener, are you ready to light it up, brother? It's been a week of wrestling. We got a bit of a late start, but we're here. We're back for everyone. How are you doing, my man? I know you've been traveling a little bit.
Doing well. Wife and I are taking 10 days or so back home in West Virginia. So a little vacation back home. It'll be nice to get away and get back to good old West Virginia for a bit. So we're going to enjoy it.
Nice. Is your wife from West Virginia too?
Yes, she is. She's from the northern part, and I'm from southern West Virginia. So
okay.
Not that it's a gigantic state, but
it's enough of a drive though. Like y'all ain't right next door.
Correct. About 3.5 hours.
Okay. All right. Well, listen, I'm glad y'all got there safe. I'm glad that everyone is rested up now and everything. I'm back to about 95% right now. The range of motion on my neck is much better than it was earlier this week. So there's a blessing in that. And we are here. We are back for you guys to break down some of the latest in the world of professional wrestling, specifically with WWE. There's quite a bit to talk about. News within the product and news surrounding the product and what's coming up in the not so distant future. And I assure you, we will get to all of that. But first, Skeener, where can our friends tune in to listen to all that we have to say with regards to WWE and the world of professional wrestling?
You can tune in to the podcast that's coming at you once a week, every week at least, on all your favorite podcast platforms. iTunes, Spotify, YouTube. We'll be dropping there once a week. We're over on Instagram at the Lariat Lounge Podcast. DMs are always open with any of your thoughts, comments, questions, concerns, hate mail, anything regarding the show or wrestling or life in general. And as well, you can always send us an email at thelariatlounge@gmail.com. Same thing, inbox is open. Please reach out.
We love that hate mail. I love the hate mail. I love to read it.
Let's see if we can generate some.
Listen, we might generate some today. Yeah, I might generate some. Well, listen, if you may generate some in the way that I think you're going to generate some, then I'm right there with you because I don't think you know in what I'm referring to. Well, then, Edge, I guess maybe I don't know you.
We'll get there.
So we will get there. But hey, we might as well jump right on in. So enough with the fluff. Let's get to the stuff. So, Skeener, let's start within the, you know what? Let's flip the script a little bit here because I don't really want to overshadow what I thought was incredibly awesome to see. And it was genuinely one of the things that before WWE started leaning into it very heavily, that I was almost certain we were never going to see. And that is AJ Lee back in the WWE. That was obviously the big story of last week. And going into Monday, we got a nice big long promo from AJ. But the interaction that she initially had with Becky and Seth was really awesome. The crowd lost their collective minds last Friday, and for good reason. AJ Lee is vaunted for good reason. Let's start with that. What were your thoughts on the mixed tag team match that we're getting at WrestlePalooza, and more specifically, just generally the return of AJ Lee?
Friday was awesome. That was a really cool moment, even if it was a very, very poorly kept secret. Still thought it was done exceptionally well. I think Seth and Becky continue to really shine here. They've just played their parts in this great. But I mean, the moment with AJ coming out and the cheers and her, it's exactly what we remember, essentially.
Yeah.
She looks the same or better.
Yeah.
A decade older, which is incredible. She's still got the charisma down, everything down. And yeah, it's great to see. It's, at one point you never thought you'd see it. Then, Punk comes back and you're wishing for it. And now it's happened. And supposedly she's here for longer than just this one-off match.
Right.
So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, I mean, Friday was absolutely incredible. It was everything it needed to be, kind of.
Now, were you there?
Perfect to the... No, Friday. Friday was not.
Okay, you weren't there in Milwaukee?
No, I had a lesson run late, and I couldn't get there. So I was not there.
Okay. Did you intend on being there? Did you have tickets?
I did not have tickets because I knew it was going to be close depending on when I got out.
Okay.
So I had my eye on, a cheaper one to get last minute, but it just didn't work out. I would have been late to the show, and I never would have wanted to go late in case I missed something great in the beginning. So it's all good. I'll get to one soon enough. But
no, dude, I hear you.
I intended on it, but I didn't. I'm not out any money because I couldn't go.
Dude, that's what happens. Because I had absolutely intended on going to SmackDown in Norfolk, and I misjudged the date. I thought it was in October, and I was telling my wife, "Hey, I want to plan ahead for this because I definitely want to go to SmackDown when they're at the Scope in Norfolk in October." And then I'm watching the product, and they're like, "We'll be in Norfolk next week." I said, "Oh, geez. I totally misjudged this." And so that was just a no-go. So they're going to be in Norfolk tonight. And unfortunately, I will not be. But yeah, dude, I thought the same thing you thought, right? Which was the worst kept secret. But nonetheless, the moment was still great. And it's one of those things where if you know that the cat proverbially is out of the bag, just lean into it entirely. You know what I mean? Let's not bury the lead too much, but we know what's coming. And they played it up so well. I agree with you 1,000% that Becky and Seth just exemplify what it means to be the heel characters in this story. Seth just doing Seth's thing right outside of the press box, Becky in the ring berating Punk again, right? And Punk just getting out of the ring, same as he did last time, and then just giving Becky just the rundown of this is what I was trying to avoid, because what is about to be unleashed on you, I already get what's coming. The problem is you don't, and you should have stopped while you were ahead. And then when AJ's music hits and AJ Lee comes out, I remember the first thing I was thinking was, she looks incredible. She looks like she's in incredible shape, and a testament to just someone who is on a general fitness regimen, because you can tell that's not the type of shape that you whipped up in the last 8 to 10 months because you were coming back to the ring. You know what I'm saying? That's somebody who stayed in shape and has been in shape. Fitness is just a part of your lifestyle. And if you follow her in any respect outside the ring, that is something that is a part of her lifestyle. So it wasn't a surprise to me that she was going to be in shape, but man, when she showed up, I was like, my goodness, she looks great. And she seems to have only aged a couple years. I'm not understanding how that works, but she looked incredible. And just the general mystique and the aura that is around AJ Lee. It's one of those things that, for me, when I saw her in the ring, or better said, when I saw her walk up to the ring or skip up to the ring, and she just kind of leaned into the ring, and it was this look that she was giving Becky. And it was almost like okay, so you're my next plaything. And then skipping around the ring, and it just brought back so many memories of AJ Lee, right? And it made me kind of go back and take a look at some clips of AJ back when she was in her original run in WWE, and just the brand of crazy that she embodied with her character. Because she's obviously not the first character to be like, crazy is my superpower. But AJ had a way about it that was unique to her. And I think it's what she utilized very well in her original run in WWE that made her the superstar that she was. And like she stated on Monday, I'm sure there were a lot of people who were wondering why their millennial parents were losing their minds. And it was just interesting to look back at some of AJ Lee's original work and just be reminded of, yeah, right before Paige showed up, AJ Lee was that girl. You know what I mean? Like, she was that girl in WWE. And the torch was handed over and she and Punk left the company. And then when everything happened with WWE, the story then centered around CM Punk and his very, very front-facing and public fallout with the WWE. And AJ just kind of shifted seamlessly into civilian life. And it was just easy to forget how amazing she was in the ring, right? But
yeah, I haven't gone back and watched, so I'm going to be kind of fresh on what she does and how she does it in the ring, because I mean, it frankly, it has been a long time.
It has.
Since I mean, I guess Mania 31 would have been the last time she was in the ring. So
yeah,
that well over a decade. So it'll be interesting to see. I will also interested to see where they go with her character, because obviously it was very had a very unique flavor to it the first time. And will we get back there, or will we do something else, or some sort of combination of both? Like what are we going to get? Are we getting quote unquote crazy AJ Lee, or are we getting, April Mendez out here? It'll be interesting to see how hard they lean into that. But very, very excited for the match. What do you want to do? Do you want to transition to Monday with this same stuff, or do you want to leave that for later?
No, so we could transition to Monday with that.
So here's where I was going to say I'm going to be careful about how I say this, but I'm not, because it's not that. I thought opening her promo Monday with the real life stuff she did, not that the message isn't great and quality, but it was weird to me to do that now. Okay. And I get it, and it's a choice, and I feel like I will definitely be in the minority. But I feel like, obviously it's a very personal and important message for her to get out there, and it's a fantastic message. Didn't like it for my wrestling. Okay. Gotta be honest. Okay. But you're coming here to beat up this girl who's been beating up on your husband and the guy he hates the most in the world. We can maybe save the real life stuff until after we get the heated hatred rivalry out of the way. But that's just me. And like I said at the top of the show, send me hate mail and tell me I'm an idiot for thinking this. But I would be dishonest if I didn't admit that my first reaction to the first half of that promo was like, if I didn't say that my reaction was, this is weird that we're doing this here. Okay. Okay.
So I thought that the promo on Monday and where she chose to start was fine. I didn't think it was, I didn't go into it with any type of preconceived notions or ideas about what it should be. I was curious as to what she was going to deliver and what the fans' reaction was going to be, right? I didn't have any doubt that the fans were going to receive her with open arms. I was curious as to whether the fans were going to be the listening crowd or were they going to be the participatory crowd? They were the participatory crowd with a hint of listening. And it's indicative of a lot of the way that crowds in WWE tend to interact now, which is turn everything into a chant. And I don't hate it entirely, but there is a part of that when it's implemented at the strangest moments, it can throw something that may benefit by a cohesive message off track. And when the message isn't delivered cohesively, then it can feel disjointed and it can feel odd. That's what I thought happened with AJ Lee and the promo she delivered.
So I'm kind of there with you that, again, and it to me takes away from what, I don't want to say takes away, but it's a weird like sidetrack, at least to me, for this blood feud that the crowd is chanting therapy. Which that I don't think was
all
well and good, but it's like, I don't know. It was just like,
I think
message, weird time to me.
But see, that's the thing though. I don't think that was intended to be the message. I don't think that was intended to be the message at all. I think that what she was telling, right, was obviously rooted in real life, rooted in the reality of April Mendez, right? But I feel like it was intended to tie this narrative together of the character of AJ Lee, that she left wrestling, she did all of these things, right? And she was in a bad mental headspace, and that she went to therapy to get herself together, and that she had gotten herself to a pretty decent place. But then someone starts slapping up on my husband, right? And doing all these things, and it's giving me these tics. And now I'm back and having to deal with this. I think that
is an interesting, very novel way to look at that. Because I didn't take that.
But I think that it was hard to take it that way, right? Because the fans were so interactive and causing the message to be very disjointed, because it stops so many times because the fans are cheering, you deserve it, welcome back. And of course you stop and let the fans do this, right? I also think that promo lasted maybe 3 to 4 minutes too long. And it could have been a bit more tight and could have delivered that message better. But it's hard to do when the fans just start chanting therapy. I thought that was kind of wild, right?
Yeah.
On one hand,
I'm glad we're at least somewhat near. We're in the same book. We may be in different chapters. I'm not on the same page. We're in the same book.
I'm not a fan always of how the audience hijacks things, right? In fact, I'm a huge detractor from the idea. I honestly can't stand it sometimes when the fans hijack segments, right? For good or for ill, I just don't like it. It takes away from the presentation, right? And I think in this situation, this is just my opinion, but in this situation, it did a disservice to the character beat that was trying to be delivered. Because if you just listen to what she said, right, without the fan interaction, the pauses, it comes across the way I described it. Because it's literally what she was saying. It just gets lost in the sauce because when the fans start chanting therapy, right, you have to wrangle the fans somehow. So either you blow by it, right, and you risk the fans continuing to hijack it because they're having fun now, or you address it, wrangle it in, and then proceed, right? So what she did was she chose to address it, which is something along the lines of like, therapy's great. And then she kept going, right? So she quelled the fans. But I get how if you're looking at the segment as a whole and looking at the segment as a whole and how that delivered a story beat, it can seem really weird and seem really off kilter and really off base. And I get that.
I'm going to have to go back and rewatch with it with what you have enlightened me to here, that how I'm taking. So here's, I mean, to at least sum up, this is what I'm taking from it, is that I watched it initially, and to go back, and again, I hate doing this sometimes, but I want to. I think this is the easiest way to separate it.
Okay.
Is that I took it initially as we got 3 to 4 minutes of April Mendez coming out and talking about things, and then we switched into the AJ Lee and where she's at in this feud. But I'm going to go back and watch it as this is AJ Lee character telling us she went away and got therapy and was doing good, but now her husband's getting beat up and she has to come back. And that's a very important distinction, I think, and I'm excited to go back and watch it with a different lens there.
I think that's the way I took it, because
okay, that makes it a little better for me. Not gonna lie.
You know what I mean? Like, that's the way I took it, because I always try to look at the performance that's being given, right? Unless, and mind you, this is not like I'm watching this and thinking, oh, hard and fast rule, make sure I implement this here so I can, but like when a character is on screen, unless I'm being specifically denoted to the fact that like, this isn't Roman Reigns talking to you right now, baby girl, this is Joe, and that I'm going away because I've got leukemia, right? I'm not being denoted here. So even though I understand that there is a human being behind this character, right? I'm also understanding that this is part of the narrative that's being told, right? When Naomi was relinquishing the Women's World Championship because she was going away because she was pregnant and she's going to be a mom, right? We're not measuring where Trinity Fatu and Naomi start and end, right? It's all being woven together in the story of Naomi, right? She's actually going away because she's actually pregnant and she's actually going to be a mom, right? But she's weaving it into the idea about these nappy-headed heifers backstage better, you know what I'm saying? Like, it all worked for the betterment of the story. I think that was what was intended here, is you're weaving in a backstory for this character, and it's rooted in April Mendez because that's who she is, right? CM Punk does that all the time, right? He does it all the time with the things that happen outside of the ring, outside of wrestling, right? Because listen, him getting fired on or getting served his termination papers on his wedding day was not a storyline for CM Punk. That was Phil Brooks. But it gets interwoven into every narrative that we have. He may not speak about it, but we know about it, right? And that's utilized when he's on screen and he's venting about frustrations, right? When he's venting about frustrations with the industry. But that's what he's always done. So when I saw AJ start talking, the first thing I was reminded of when she started doing her promo on Monday was how much she is an equal to CM Punk on the microphone. And I'd forgotten that. And when I went back and I watched some clips of her in her original run, I was reminded of just how good she was on the microphone. Like, she's very commanding and she knows what she's doing and she knows who that character is. And so she's able to deliver, not just because she knows her character, but because some people got it and some people don't. And AJ Lee got it. She knows what she's doing and she does it well. And I was reminded of just how in touch she is with how she comes across on the microphone. Because it was very apropos, some of the things that she was saying. And I think it landed really well. It just landed really well with the crowd. Like, not even a situation of like, oh, she hadn't missed a beat. But it's more so like, no, this person knows who she is. And she's delivering in a way that is someone who has been experienced in the ring, has done this before, is not a rookie. You know what I mean? And knows how to handle a crowd, how to handle a microphone, and how to deliver lines. Like, we're not dealing with somebody who doesn't know what they're doing. And she delivered it really well. And I just thought that the story and what she was trying to get out, unfortunately, the crowd just makes themselves the centerpiece. And as much as I know the WWE likes to embrace that, and I think, like we said earlier, to a certain extent, you have to. Because you have to learn how to work the fans. Otherwise, the fans will work you. I just thought that where they chose to just create a chant about therapy was stupid. And Sure, I get it. But the good thing is, I'm sure when they show up on on SmackDown tonight, right, and they show replays of what happened on Monday, they're not going to show the therapy part because that was never intended to be part of this narrative to begin with.
I don't know. I think they might just because they love a good crowd chant. I hope you're right, and you tend to be more right about these things than I am. But it just, we're kind of on the same page in that stuff kind of made for a little bit of a jolted start to it. Now, what I thought when Becky came out there, like, business picked up, and I mean, I think it's magic. I almost wish we had a little more time with this than just next week to let this angle really simmer, because I think there's so many, you've got 4 great pieces and players here that can do a lot of stuff, and just get them all to interact, because hey, we haven't seen Rollins and AJ go at it.
This is true.
On the mic or anything. That'd be great to see, and maybe we get that here in the next 3 shows we've got before WrestlePalooza.
Yeah. But, well, and listen, with AJ being around, right, and you alluded to this earlier, which is she's not going away after WrestlePalooza. So there's still room for that. And they foreshadowed quite a bit with AJ taking that title, right?
Which I somehow missed on Friday, and then she showed up with the belt, and I'm like, what happened? But somehow I missed that on Friday.
When she was whooping Becky on Friday, Becky hopped out of the ring, right? And then, Rollins trips over the barricade trying to get in there, which I thought was hilarious. It's one of those moments where it's like, play the comedy up, because that's what the heels should be doing in this moment. And it's like he's tripping over himself trying to get in there to rescue Becky. And in the midst of that, she leaves the title in the ring. And at the end of the show, AJ standing at the top on the top rope holding the Intercontinental Championship. And then I guess she took it home with her. I
remember that. Yeah, I guess I just I don't know. I didn't assume she would take it with her.
Well, right, because the general assumption is that, show goes off, everybody goes backstage, and then, things get handed around, and then you start the next show.
A fun twist and a fun way to get to making the match. Yeah. Which, I guess makes sense because, why would the cowardly heels take this match? Yeah. That they, when deep down they're in character, they're playing it they're scared of these people. And I think we've got another fun thing to play off of, because we saw that Becky was not happy that Seth got goaded into taking this match.
She was not happy at all. I was literally just about to say that was such a great wrinkle to this. Yeah. Right? Seth coming in with his mansplaining pants on, and he's like, all right, listen. I'm the champion around here. This is how things go. All right, so give us back the title, and then it's just he almost gets the GTS from Punk, and then he's like, you know what? Yeah, you're on, and Becky looks like, what are you doing?
He lost his cool and got goaded into it.
Yes, that was phenomenal. It was phenomenal, and it's great seeing Becky and Seth get to play these really one-dimensional characters, because it works. It works when they're in a tandem, right? Because at least them playing one-dimensional characters at any given time when they're with each other, they have at least the 2 dimensions that you can play off of, right? Because they act as a unit, right? So in that moment, Seth could be the guy who's like, oh, come on. And then he loses his cool and he's all the way in. And Becky is now the voice of reason that's getting overridden. You know what I mean? And it just works. It just works. And it makes this, it lays the groundwork for them over the next few weeks to add more layers and more depth and more angles to this. But just give us the basic groundwork, right? To where the match is set. I think this is better than trying to spend the next couple weeks building to a match with them. Because I don't think AJ's going to be on every single Raw and SmackDown between now and WrestlePalooza, right? So lay the groundwork now, get the match set up. That's a great selling point for ESPN, right? It's a great selling point for WWE. But now you can utilize the pieces that are on the board and on the shows to now flesh this story out. Maybe you can toss in a little bit of angle between Becky and Seth, where of course they're on the same page because they're husband and wife and they're going to be fighting his team. But the man is a little bit upset that her husband, right, kind of jumped the gun and got goaded into this thing. And who knows what we're going to get from Punk and AJ. That's another interaction that we haven't seen either, because you were right. We haven't seen AJ and Seth, right? But we haven't actually gotten to see a lot of real interaction between AJ and Punk and what their dynamic looks like when they're both on the mic and they're both talking. You know what I mean? So that's going to be something interesting to see too. They just got a lot of avenues here. And, you know, aside from some of the issues surrounding her introduction promo back to the people, I think they've got a real bankable asset here in this mixed tag match. And I definitely think that we're going to get a program with AJ Lee versus Becky Lynch coming out of this for that Intercontinental Championship.
That would be great. And I'm so in for this because everyone's just so good. And I say it every week, but Becky just clearly in her bag with this character. When she called AJ a Jersey trash bag weirdo, I think stuff like that. And man, her black eye, I didn't realize she got potatoed so hard on SmackDown, but she had quite the black eye. And then Seth throwing her over his shoulder like a sack of potatoes.
Oh, yeah.
And carrying her out is just great heel stuff.
It really is. It really is. And they know when to turn on the cowardly heel and when to turn on the other aspects of those characters. It just works.
Yeah, it's really good. Really good stuff. Despite, what I said about one aspect of this, I thought it was very well done. And one of the, for me, probably the highlights of the shows this past week.
I definitely agree. Now I want to ask you a question. Do you think we get any singles action with AJ Lee in the 2 to 3 weeks between now and WrestlePalooza?
I think we've only got 1 week.
Oh, is it only a week now?
It is the 20th, I believe, is WrestlePalooza. So yeah,
today,
next Saturday.
Oh, okay. So yeah, we're not getting her in the ring.
No. Her first. And I wouldn't think, regardless. I think they want this to be her first go back, and I think that's fine. Because,
I agree.
Look, she's no matter how much you practice, it's your first time back out there. So why not get your feet wet, kind of wade back into the pool with 3 of the best in the business today.
Agreed. I agree. It makes more sense when I think about the fact that, they're only a week out, a little over a week out. Yeah, no, save that. That makes all the sense in the world. So the other big thing from SmackDown that did not carry over to Raw because Cena wasn't on Raw. Was Cena on Raw? I don't think he was.
He was not.
Okay.
And it was interesting that last week, you and I, we were trying so hard to work out the math of Cena's got to appear on SmackDowns in between these shows, and well, there's the answer. He will not be on any more SmackDowns, so we don't have to worry about building those dates.
True, that's his last SmackDown. So, I mean, are we going to get a situation where he's doing like his last Raw? Listen, we ain't gonna dive down that rabbit hole right now. But
you would think, but not important right now.
No. What we got? Brock Lesnar showing up at Cena's last Raw. And I'm not sure if I caught this correctly because it's been a full week since SmackDown. And I did not go back to watch because, just being completely honest, I'm not that interested in Brock. But when Brock came out, it did not appear to me, Skeens, that the crowd popped louder for him than they did for when AJ came out. It seemed kind of like the crowd was like, oh, it's Lesnar. And that was kind of it. And after he did what he did, which is what he does, which is come in the ring, couple F5s, right? And then kind of, stand around and look menacing. I don't know. It did not seem to me like the crowd was super duper into it. What did you think?
So, I think the crowd did pop more for AJ, but I think we've got to temper that with this is a special case.
Okay.
This is her coming back for the first time in a while in Chicago, in a place that's really going to pop for her the most because she's their golden child's wife. I don't think Brock is that. I don't think that is exemplary of people not being into Brock. I think he will continue to get massive reactions and move the needle because that's what he does.
Sure.
Was it overshadowed in the wrestling world? Yes, of course, because it's a massive return. I thought it was interesting that they decided to throw both of those things on the same show, honestly.
Oh, yeah?
But it must have been it feels like the AJ thing was probably more quote unquote last minute. And I'm not saying it's last minute.
Sure.
But I feel like that probably developed more recently. They had this planned as Cena's last SmackDown that would go off with Brock coming in. But it's weird that we're having to talk about Brock Lesnar showing up to beat the crap out of John Cena and leave him laying, and it's not the first thing we addressed on the show. I do think that's odd. I didn't sense the same thing that you did.
Okay.
But that may be because I'm a big Brock Lesnar guy.
Sure.
So maybe that's me. But I acknowledge that certain people are not as excited as me about seeing this Brock Lesnar John Cena match. But I think it wasn't, I don't know who said it or when, but this is going to be a one match deal between them because someone said somewhere, it may have been off programming, that this is the last time Brock Lesnar and John Cena will face each other.
Right. Which I would expect, seeing as how, this is Cena's farewell tour.
Floated around in multiple places that, hey, maybe they do one here and one in Perth. But I never thought that, and it was confirmed that will not be happening.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I that makes sense. Like I was saying, it's good that we are getting Brock Lesnar on SmackDown tonight. If I'm not mistaken, he's supposed to be here and they're going to do some sort of promo segment with him.
Really? I had not looked at the preview yet. So
I feel like they had stated that after Brock did what he did on last week's SmackDown, I believe they said that he was going to address Cena because they announced that he was going to be on a show. So I'm assuming he was going to be there to address John. Now, guys, if I'm getting that wrong, please reach out to the Instagram or through Gmail or let me know if I was wrong. But I'm pretty sure I remember them stating that.
I typed in WWE.com and the first thing that loaded in was the giant image of Brock Lesnar.
Okay, so all right,
and the SmackDown logo. So yeah,
okay, so I think that tracks. So I'm glad they're doing that, and it will give some well-needed context to this, even though I don't think that the context is going to be very deep. At this point, it doesn't really have to be because we're really only a little over a week out. So Lesnar will be here tonight. And then we'll probably get – no, John, it was his last SmackDown. So John's not going to be on SmackDown next week. So either he shows up on Raw on Monday to address this before we go into WrestlePalooza, or we don't get any more John. I am so genuinely sorry, friends, because this and other aspects of this episode are not going to be the most fun parts you get from me. I genuinely think that this – chapter in John Cena's farewell tour has been the worst part. I think it's been the worst booked part. I think it's been the most lackluster part. I think it's been the most low effort part. It doesn't appear that WWE has really put a lot of effort into trying to make this into anything other than a marquee match for WrestlePalooza. None of this is landing for me, other than the fact that this is a match with one of John Cena's biggest rivals, right? But this is reminiscent of what we all kind of feared his farewell tour was going to be, which is John Cena just playing the hits until we ride out. Like, where's the story to this? And despite how we felt about the John Cena story for this year, how it started, which, by the way, that interesting stuff with The Rock, we'll get to that. But, that story took a pivot, but then they invested so much over the summer, right? With Cena's heel turn and just so many things with regard to a story that they were telling. And then we get the Brock Lesnar insertion at SummerSlam after Cody has a stern talking to the John and he just randomly switches back to the good side, right? And then he just straight up loses to Cody. And then Lesnar shows up. We get no follow-up for weeks, right? And then Lesnar just shows up again to F5 John again. And I guess we're going to get somewhat of an explanation tonight. But I just have had very, very little to invest in this other than the fact that it's a match between John Cena and Brock Lesnar. Like, there's just nothing for me to latch my claws into to really make me care about this match. And it's not to say that I don't think that someone at the caliber of Brock Lesnar and at the caliber of John Cena at this day and age won't be able to deliver a great match. A match that's going to be fun to watch, right? And if I look at it in a vacuum, in a bubble, without any context, and just as a contest, I'm sure it'll be fine. But that's not, for me, what really sells me on something. I think the things that really sell me on something, this aspect of Cena's farewell tour has been sorely and extremely lacking of. And I'm not entirely sure what Brock is going to be able to sell me on tonight on SmackDown is going to make me care any more about this match than I do right now. And admittedly, that's very little. But I don't know. Like, what are your thoughts, Skeener? Because maybe I can glean something from you in the way that you gleaned something from me with the AJ segment on Monday. Because right now, brother, this is just absolutely missing me on almost every single mark.
I'm with you to an extent, and I think I echoed this, if not last week, the week before. The Cena thing has been weird because they at times just did the farewell tour to play the hits, and at times they did long-term story stuff.
Yeah.
And it's made the timeline and timing of stuff odd in that we got, they're doing multiple things at once, which maybe they're trying to do too much, maybe they're trying to do not enough, but I mean, we've talked about this, how like it's just not all landed. But I'm still in the mind that, like, it hit me on Friday when Cena said, "This is my last SmackDown." I'm like, man, we are getting close to the end of this. Where sure. I'm just, and not because I'm trying to be an apologist and make excuses and convince anyone else that this is the way they need to think, but like, I'm at the point where I'm like, man, I've only got X number of times probably that I'm going to see John Cena wrestle and do his thing, so I'm going to make the most out of that and enjoy that as much as I can. Has the Brock stuff been built great? No. Hey, we don't have a reason yet, and maybe tonight, and as we record this on Friday, maybe tonight when Brock shows up, we get a little bit of that. Yeah. And I'm sure we will. And yeah, the timing of it's weird, and I don't think we'll see Cena again till WrestlePalooza, but it's like they had, we got to get this, we got to do this, we got to do this, we got to do this. And it never really added up to how are we going to do this in the X amount of dates we had Cena contracted for.
Yeah.
Like, and it's just weird. But to go back, I had a little markout moment when I realized what was happening with Sammy and John, and that they were going to run back the U.S. Open Challenge, because that's like a great moment. I'm sure if you were watching then as a fan, you remember that and the match it was, and the craziness of Sammy dislocating his shoulder,
Yeah.
pumping up the crowd, and like all that, and to see that come full circle and them have a great knockdown drag out match was awesome. And Sammy put up something on Instagram today talking about how much it meant to him, and I think that's where like just reinforces to me like there will be time for me to bitch and complain about things in the future, and I'm not trying to tell anyone else that they have to think like me
Sure.
on this, but it's like it's hard for me to get even too critical and too down on anything, because I know this is going to be over before I want it to be over.
Okay.
But I'm not sure I can give you anything more than what there is. If the prospect of a John Cena Brock Lesnar match and it being their last time they're going to go at it doesn't excite you, you're probably not going to get anything more to get you there tonight.
Sure.
It's just, it's kind of the way it is. But that's also like, that's what this whole thing's been, aside from the heel turn and, you know, the other, and the Cody stuff, and aside from the heel turn and the Cody arc, which I kind of lump as one thing.
Sure.
And the 2-match series, if you want to even call it that, the little Logan Paul thing, it's all kind of been like this. Like, did we really have a reason other than we wanted to do it for Cena and Orton to go at it again? For Cena and Punk to go at it again? Not really, but, you know, if you weren't down for it, you weren't going to be down for it. And that's fine. And I know, obviously, that's a little different because you had quote-unquote full-time guys and some time to build, but it is what it is. You're either into it or you're not. At this point, yeah. I don't think any one thing that I can say or Brock can say tonight that's going to get you there.
Well, and here's the thing. So, and let me be perfectly clear. I can be of two minds about something, right? So I'm not the type of person that I can appreciate something, right? And value it for what it is, and still levy criticism about it, right? Like for me, I don't have to have a feel good feeling about it to appreciate it, nor do I feel like if something does not give me those feel good feels, it somehow indicates a lack of appreciation, right? So I can appreciate it for what it is. I will absolutely tune in and I will watch this match, and you and I will be live streaming on Lariat Lounge Live. So tune in, guys, because we will be doing it with pizza and enjoying it with my friend and, you know, having a great time. And I will appreciate it because it is the last time that Lesnar and Cena will be wrestling each other. I think for me, that can be true along with the fact that this doesn't make any sense. And WWE has done a lackluster job of telling this story. And yes, I understand with other things like Orton and Punk and stuff like that, but those things were in the context of John Cena's story and what it was that you were telling. For me right now, it seems like the story part of this has just kind of been a afterthought. And I'm not saying that there isn't a overall narrative that is being told, because at the end of the day, we can look back retrospectively and see a story that's played out, because anything that happens on television, right, will be part of a narrative that we will be able to read back and understand as a through point. However, whether there's intentionality about that or not, that is something that is absolutely subject to how much effort is being put into the story being told. I agree with you that I feel like there are things that WWE is having to juggle, right? Some things I think that are self-inflicted wounds that are a part of WWE's expansion efforts that are causing more events to pop up and to take place, and for things to then be added and reshuffled. And so they have to tell quick shoot from the hip stories, right? To kind of fit into the narratives that they're building for new events that are popping up. I also think there are things that are happening that are surrounding pro wrestling or surrounding WWE specifically that are causing them to maybe interweave different stories into things that seem like some hard pivots. And some of these things they're handling really well, right? I think they're handling, for instance, the fact that Roman Reigns is away doing Street Fighter along with Cody, right? That they're handling the whole thing with Jay really well, right? They're handling Jay's, almost kind of seeming like a Roman heelish type deal really, really well. But they're also handling other things I think not as well. And I don't think they're handling the Cena thing as well. That doesn't mean that I don't appreciate it. It just is a honest take on how I feel about it. And I say that because for me, it allows me to put myself on a default level playing field by getting it out of my system and speaking that truth, right? And then when SmackDown comes around, if something is there that they deliver, and let's say for the sake of this conversation that WWE over delivers and they deliver something that is crazy, is groundbreaking, well then hats off to WWE, right? Because now you're going to have me guessing on whether or not this was intentional all along. And that's great. I love to be on the back foot. That's wonderful. And I'm not one of those commentators on YouTube that's going to pretend like I knew the whole time. That's disingenuous, and I'm not going to do that. But
so as we sit here, what do you think Brock is going to give us tonight? Because I think I have a pretty good idea of what it'll be.
If I had to guess, which in full disclosure, I have not pondered it a single bit. I think he's probably just going to come out there and honestly, dude, I don't know. I have no idea what he could even deliver that would make any rational sense here. I have no idea other than the fact that like, I just hate John Cena and I want to ruin his farewell tour. And like, that's the only thing I can think of because I am a fan of Brock Lesnar when Brock Lesnar is utilized a certain way. When they were utilizing him with Paul Heyman and Paul was the advocate and Lesnar was the beast, I think they used him very, very well. I think Brock has developed so much as a promo, but he's never been great at it. And I think that he, on his own, with what he's been given in this scenario, I have no idea what he could say that would make any sense at all. And that would, work to pushing this story forward in a way that shows cohesion with the rest of the story that has been built up to this point. But you have an idea. So what do you think that Lesnar is going to say tonight?
I mean, I assume it's just going to be like, I was watching at home and saw John Cena said this was his last go-round, and I'm not going to let him get out without getting one more piece of it. I mean, I can't imagine it'll be much more than that.
Right.
But in my mind, like, at least for the sake of what we'll get, that is justification enough. It's weird that it's taken so long to get there, because why couldn't we just do a via satellite interview the night after SummerSlam?
Sure.
To get there. But I can't imagine it'll be anything else than that.
I agree. I agree with you 1,000%.
Because what else would make a modicum of sense?
And that's kind of where I'm at. And listening to you say what you said helped me to get my thoughts together. What else could make any more sense than that? Like, if I'm just looking at the cards as they currently lay, right? And I think you said it absolutely perfect, right? This is something that we could have done better with. We could have done better with this, and we could have approached this the Raw after SummerSlam, right? With some via satellite footage, giving Cena some time to work his magic and add something to this, and we just did not do it. So, with the cards as they're currently laying, what else could we actually even do that would make any sense whatsoever? other than what you laid out, which is I was at home. I saw Cena running his mouth talking about this is his last go around, and no one gave me a call. So I just decided I was going to show up and I was going to ruin his SummerSlam. And I was going to ruin his open challenge match because you're not going to overlook me and you're not going to, not have me on your dance card, as your last match or something. Or he could be like, oh, actually, I respect John. But the fact that he didn't consider me for one of his last matches seems disrespectful. And I'm not going to tolerate his disrespect. You could do something like that. Anything that would get us to next week. You could throw in there, right, and make it work. And not to say that I think any of those things would particularly be bad. It's just, like you said before, and I'm agreeing with again, there was just room for this to be so much better. And WWE just did not either have the time or the forethought or didn't feel like it was necessary to lean into this at all. They just seem to carry this as an afterthought. And I'm sorry, but if you carry this as an afterthought, you cannot expect me as a viewer to think of it as anything else other than an afterthought. I am a product of what you create. And if you create something that comes across like you put minimal effort into it, don't expect me to put a maximum effort into trying to rationalize the irrational. And this just doesn't make any sense. But I can appreciate the wrestling for what the wrestling is. And that's why I said at the beginning, right? Which is if putting this in a vacuum, right? If I was just watching WrestlePalooza, it's going to be a great match. And I can appreciate this as being John Cena's last go around with Brock. And they did have a legendary feud in John Cena's history. And yeah, it will be really fun to watch. And I also know that just because of what this is, not simply because it's John Cena's farewell tour, but because it's Brock Lesnar, this will start and end at WrestlePalooza. That there will be no follow-up to this. There will be nothing to come from this. Right. And I think that's been the thing that, if I'm being honest with you, Skeens, it's what probably makes me a little more frustrated with this than with other things. It's because we know what this is. We know that these mini feuds that John Cena is a part of are in service of his farewell tour, and that there isn't going to be anything that's going to follow this. Right. So you have, whether I agreed with it or not, you had an opportunity well ahead of WrestlePalooza by inserting Brock Lesnar into the closing moments of SummerSlam to build something that the likes of Randy Orton did not get the privilege to have, that CM Punk did not get the privilege to have, that R-Truth did not get the privilege to have, that Cody did not get the privilege to have, which is that much buildup ahead of time. In fact, the only one I could argue would be Cody, because this all kind of started with Cena and Cody, right? But the rest of them, they didn't have the privilege to have that much time. But Lesnar had way more time than the rest of them. And not saying Lesnar is in Lesnar did this, but Lesnar had way more time that WWE provided, and they just didn't do anything. Oh, come on. Are you serious? Spam. Let me start that over. WWE gave Lesnar way more time than these other marquee feuds that were in Cena's lineage, and they just did nothing with it. And it's just disappointing because, like it or not, we can enjoy this now, as we all will. But when we look back on it, there will be 3 distinct segments of Cena's farewell tour. There will be the prelude, which built up this story that did not necessarily culminate in what we expected, right? This was the whole Cody Soul stuff, to the midsection, which is John Cena turning heel, from John Cena's heel turn through to John Cena turning back face. And then it'll have the ending. And the ending will be probably the most disjointed part of this entire thing, right? But like we've spoken about before, we're also going to be talking about all the jump cuts in this entire story and the things that seem left out and the things that we're missing. And it's not going to take away at all from the memory of the greatness that is the Cena Farewell Tour, because we all love John Cena and we all love professional wrestling, right? And this will all be wrapped up in a very pretty bow of a video package that will tie this together, and the narrative will be wonderful, right? And WWE's already made its money and sold out the shows, and no one will care except for us wrestling nerds. But for us wrestling nerds, I think for some of us that those things matter. And I would have loved to have seen John be able to tell the type of story that it seemed like WWE was stating that he wanted to tell. If you take The Rock's words as the truth, right, that John wanted to tell this really interesting story with his farewell. And it just kind of seems like if this is a story that he wanted to tell, I don't know, it seems a little odd. And if this wasn't the story that he wanted to tell, then it just seems like it's kind of a bummer that he didn't get to do that. But
I think it's very clear that, it hasn't been as magical and perfect as we all would have liked it to be, and that it seemed like we were maybe on the way to at the start. But who knows what happened and what led us here.
Yeah.
But it certainly has been a land of missed opportunities, at least from our seat. And I have to think there have been, again, you have to imagine there have been complications that have necessitated the way some of these things have played out. Not all of them. But maybe we'll find out in the future. Maybe we won't.
Well, we know one thing that's not going to be on Cena's dance card going into the finale of his world tour. That's The Rock. I don't know. Have you seen any of the recent pictures of The Rock?
Yes. I've seen that he is much. He switched vitamins, it seems.
He is about 70 pounds lighter.
He's on some different vitamins than he was.
Yes. The story that I heard around it was that he had some health scares and some things were brought to his attention. And it was just one of those things where for you to be your age, at your size, and the diet that you're on, you are putting a terribly large load and strain on your heart. And
you mean people aren't supposed to be built like action figures?
I don't think you're supposed to be built like action figures at his age for sure. Right? Like, listen, our old ticker ages with us, right? And it's a muscle too. So as all the rest of us age, all the rest of our body ages, so too does our heart. And maybe he could have maintained that when he was in his 20s and his 30s, maybe even into his 40s. But when you start getting to like your 50s, right, it's like that's a lot of strain to put on your heart to be as big as he is, to eat the way he does. It's a lot. And I totally 1,000,000,000% get that, right? Which is you got to take care of your body, homie. Like you have got to take care of your health. And if that means that, I'm going to adjust my lifestyle as I know how to do, because if there's anybody, right, who would know how to manage his lifestyle, his fitness, his diet in a way that is going to best serve his body, of course it's Dwayne, right? And he's going to do what his aging body needs for him to stay healthy and live as long and as vital as possible. So when I saw his physique change, unlike some people who like, dude, the internet can just be such a stupid ass place to be. And there are just some people who are just genuinely like shoot stupid. And they said the same things when Dave Bautista dropped a lot of weight, right? And to a certain extent, I can understand maybe your initial reactions are they okay? But once you get the word that like, yeah, I dropped this weight because I just generally wanted to be more healthy. And as an actor, this opens me up to a lot more roles that I can play with a lot more diversity because I am a human being who has goals and wants to do things. For people to continue to then speculate on, oh, maybe he's like sick. Dude, please. Come on. Like, are you not human? Or like does the internet aspect of your brain tend to like shut off the human aspects of your understanding? I'm starting to think it's the latter, Skeens, because you see it so much that it's hard to not think that, people's Twitter fingers have actually become their literal fingers. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I kind of got you there. Sorry, I was kind of thinking to myself, and this is not my most eloquent rebuttal or agreeal of all time.
No, I mean it's cool. Like it's. I mean, because I'm trying to put myself in the shoes of internet folks, and like I said, I can understand where you may have speculation when you see a picture surface of The Rock and he looks significantly smaller than normal. I get it. My thing is when you get word, however, that no, he's fine. This is a voluntary weight loss because he had a health concern with his heart, right? So he's voluntarily changing his diet because he's not naturally that big, right? And he's an actor and he wants to open himself up to a variety of different roles that his size tends to typecast him as a certain type. And he wants to do something different. When you hear that and yet you still go through speculation station and think, well, I don't know, man, because he looks awfully sick. I mean, there's no convincing you at that point, I think. I think there's no convincing you because the truth is not enough. And the explanation does not seem to be able to compute and make logical sense. And I don't know. It made logical sense to me. Do you know what I'm saying? I assume it made logical sense to you that, like you said.
Yeah, for sure.
To be that big,
he's got to take care of himself.
You got to take care of yourself.
He looked like a comic book character.
Yes.
Like that was not sustainable for the long term and not necessary. Like, did it help his presence in some of the roles he played? Obviously, absolutely. But like, he can't do that all the time, especially not at his age, really at any age, like you said. I mean, it's just, the fact that there's even a discourse over it is kind of wild.
It is. And I think and this is not just my thoughts, is stuff I've also seen online. He said on multiple occasions before, or at least alluded to the idea of potentially running for president. And I think him dropping some weight and less resembling an action figure and more resembling a regular person will make him obviously more palatable for a subset of people who may not be able to get past his muscle mass and take him seriously in maybe some of his policy positions or his thoughts on things. And I am a firm believer in the fact that we as human beings are and can be multifaceted people. And he can absolutely be someone who at one point in his life loved playing college football. And then at another point in his life lived and breathed professional wrestling. And then at another point in his life, he was a businessman and an action movie star. Right. And then at another point in his life, maybe he wanted to be a more serious actor and maybe a politician. And just like you build yourself up physically, right, to compete in the arena that you want to compete in, like professional wrestling and sports, right, you build yourself up for the arena that you want to compete in, right, which may benefit him on a political stage for him to not look like the Incredible Hulk when standing next to Marco Rubio or something, right? It may help people take him a little more seriously. But then, like we said earlier, right, the bigger thing is your health, dude. Like, take care of yourself. And these people, like The Rock, know absolutely how to take care of themselves and they know their bodies. So, unless they come out and say, like Triple H did, that, he had a heart condition and that's why he's not walking around looking like the Game anymore because he had a heart situation. Unless he comes out and says something like that, I'm not going to be that type of person who sits around and speculates all day about the health of Dwayne Johnson because he no longer looks like The Rock.
Well, I think I would, not to belabor it and we can move on, but I would like to see him next to someone like that I know to get like a frame of reference on,
like a 2 scale.
Because I'm sure he's still a massive human. Like
I don't disagree.
I don't think he's small by any means now, but it'd be interesting to see like the difference between like now and the last couple of years.
And I get that. I get that because I definitely, I don't think when I saw the photo of The Rock that I had to necessarily remind myself of the fact that, this is still a massive human being, but there was definitely a very, very noticeable difference in his frame. But
yeah, he looks wildly different.
He looks wildly different, right? But I can't remember who it was, but somebody alluded to the fact that we have no idea what The Rock looks like underneath that shirt. Like he could be lean and shredded and you know what I'm saying? And he looks like the paragon of health, right? But it's just such a jarring juxtaposition between what he was versus what he looks like now. And it helps in the idea of perspective to maybe see him standing next to someone and realize, oh no, The Rock's still a big guy.
Yeah.
Because it did take me a little while to get adjusted to Dave Bautista dropping a lot of weight.
Yeah, I guess you're right in a way. I don't know. I guess it was jarring at first, but then I'm like, okay, that's what he looks like now.
Yeah.
Like I wouldn't like the people that, or the things I said, or the things I saw that were like, well, he can't be the final boss anymore looking like that. I'm like, what are we talking about? Like, yes, he can. If he came out and said he's the final boss, he's the damn final boss. Like, what are we doing here? Like, he didn't need to look like that to be the final boss. I don't think so, at least.
I hear you.
I get that perspective, but also like he doesn't need to look ridiculous to do whatever he wants to do, which he did, like to an extent. Like that was a comical version of a human body to me.
Yeah, I can see that. Now I'll be honest. Do I think he's still going to be final boss? No. I think all of this. You don't drop that kind of weight.
He's not going to show up to work anymore.
I think that. I think he quit that job and just took the board member job.
Seems like it, yeah.
Yeah, I think, you don't drop 70 pounds in a healthy way super duper quick. And I think that, and this is all speculation, but I'm assuming that after Elimination Chamber, you know what I'm saying? After Elimination Chamber, I think he probably started on his weight loss journey because he didn't film that MMA movie this year. You know what I'm saying? Like he didn't film that
that's
this
my
year.
thing. I don't know. I like Elimination Chamber, like aside from seeing the commercial for that movie on, maybe that was in SummerSlam or wherever it was, where his just the facial makeup or whatever was jarring to me. I haven't seen him since then. So,
well, that's the thing. That's the point I'm making. Right? Is he didn't film that movie in 2025? Like he filmed that movie before Elimination Chamber. So, and that's why you're getting the trailers for it. In 2025, that movie comes out this year, right? So he didn't film that this year. So I think that we saw him at Elimination Chamber, and I think his weight loss journey probably started soon after. You know what I mean? Which is probably one of those unforeseen reasons why we took a very hard pivot away from the final boss thing. Because I think
that would make a lot of sense.
That would make a lot of sense. He took a hard pivot because The Rock is done. He's not doing this anymore. Like you know what I mean? Like if what he said was true.
Yeah, you're right. You don't want to speculate, but like, yeah, if he gets bad health news, then.
Yeah, then he's probably like, okay, yeah, absolutely. We're switching this up. We're not doing this. And so they went a different direction. You know what I'm saying? And it's like The Rock is on his health journey now. And that would line up with why we had such a hard pivot.
Yeah, it really would.
But I'm sure at some point we'll find out. I'm sure he'll like put out a book or he'll do an interview or something. You know what I mean? After this whole Cena thing goes away, because he's still a wrestler through and through, and so he's not going to probably do anything or say anything that's going to disrupt something that WWE is trying to do. But we'll probably get after the Cena farewell tour goes somewhere in an interview or a book or something, and a good story will come out. But as long as he's healthy, you know what I mean, and he's doing what he needs to do to take care of himself, do whatever you need to do. I'm certainly not judging.
No judgment, obviously.
Yeah, of course.
I just want to see The Rock more. That's all. That's all sure. my frustration or lack thereof ever comes from.
Oh, for sure. And listen, as wrestling fans, of course, we would have loved. We stated this many episodes ago that it would be lovely if The Rock was Cena's final opponent. But that's the wrestling nerd in us being wrestling nerds, and the human beings that are behind those wrestling nerds. They just take care of yourself. Do what you need to do, and be healthy and stay around for yourself and your family and the people who rely on you, because you are definitely still Dwayne Johnson, and you got a lot of people whose livelihoods rely on you being around. So take care of yourself. I will say there's no judgment there. There is judgment, in my opinion, though, Skeens, with some of the news we've gotten recently with WWE. And for those of you that do not know, WWE had a press conference today. They announced it yesterday, I believe, and it was at 3 p.m. Eastern. They had a huge announcement. That huge announcement was that, what is it, WrestleMania 43?
Yes.
WrestleMania 43 in the year 2027 will be happening in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. This will be 1 year after the Royal Rumble in 2026 will also be in Saudi Arabia. I was watching the live stream. I believe Skeena was watching as well, at least to a point.
Yeah, I heard Joe Tessitore's first few words, and then I saw the logo and saw the word Riyadh on the logo, and then I was like, I know what this is. I don't need to watch this.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I figure I didn't miss anything groundbreaking.
No. Aside
from the announcement.
What you missed was a big old fashioned glaze session of Riyadh.
I saw. Yeah, that's what I figured it would be.
Like it's. Let's just jump right into this. So I think I might have watched maybe 20 minutes, 25 minutes of this, and I was in the chat. And let me be perfectly clear. I don't think I have ever been a part of a chat, wrestling or otherwise, where an announcement was made and I saw that many boos, thumbs down, and you sold out than I saw in the 61,000 plus people that were in that chat for this announcement. You just rolled out the red carpet, and rolled up in that red carpet were the likes of The Undertaker, Shawn Michaels, Charlotte Flair, Liv Morgan. Where's she been? But they brought her back to roll out in front of this Saudi minister of sports, right? Along with Seth Rollins, Logan Paul, and Bianca Belair. And
did you say Charlotte? And I think I saw Stephanie Vaquer.
And Stephanie Vaquer was there as well.
Yeah, which is a telling about how they think about her if she's in with that crew there.
It is, but what was more telling to me, Skeens, was the fact that we haven't seen Stephanie. We haven't seen Stephanie on programming in a little while, and questions were starting to surround where she's been. If she's all right, right? Liv Morgan has been off TV for months behind a shoulder injury. We had no idea we were going to see Liv again, right? But we ruined Liv's return to glaze Saudi for a WrestleMania that is happening outside of the country. Now, mind you, let me be perfectly clear for all of my fans and all of our fans of this podcast that do not reside in the United States, because I was checking the analytics schemes. We are getting more listens around the world than we ever have before. I'll have to read the list off to you at some point. But the community is growing internationally. So for my international fans, for our international fans, let me say this. I am in no way criticizing or chastising. I think that you are overdue, honestly, for more premium live events to happen in your neck of the woods. There have been many international countries who have supported WWE for decades and decades and decades. You have been feeders into the WWE system, whether it is talent, whether it is culture. You've always been a support for World Wrestling Entertainment, its product, and its superstars. I definitely would not have had a bit of a problem if they had announced that in 2026, the Royal Rumble was happening in London. I would not have felt bad at all if they said that in 2027, WrestleMania 43 was happening in Australia. The fact, however, that WWE, since their merger with UFC and becoming TKO, have become so corporatized in their actions that not only had they broken tradition and gone back to back at Las Vegas for 2 WrestleManias.
To be fair, Vince did it once, very early.
That was at what, Madison Square Garden?
No, at Atlantic City at Trump Plaza, I believe.
Oh boy,
WrestleMania, one of the early ones before 10. I think maybe 7 and 8 were at the same place.
Okay, so we're still in the early days of establishing WrestleMania.
No, I'm sorry, it was before that. I want to get this right.
Okay.
4 and 5.
Oh, so yeah, okay. So
4
yeah,
and 5 were both at Trump Plaza in Atlantic City.
So I'm not even counting those because those are the days when they're still trying to establish WrestleMania as a marquee event that can stand on its own, right? They're still very reliant on venues that will host wrestling to that scale, right? And that's just wrestling history. So, I'm not trying to, discredit it in a way where I'm just not counting it because I don't want to count it. But that was the history at the time. WrestleMania has the ability to stand on its own and sell out any place it goes at this point, right? They've been taking bids on locations for decades now. The fact that New Orleans won the bid for WrestleMania 42, but then that bid gets taken away from them and given back to Vegas because Vegas will give them more money is abysmal to me. I think it is terrible. I genuinely think that it is abhorrent to remove the ability for fans of a particular region to be able to experience WrestleMania in the way that WrestleMania has been doing since WrestleMania 5. Which is have the ability to have that program shift around from place to place every year so that new audiences can experience it live. But you go back to Vegas because you're going to make more money there. And then you offboard more and more and more PLEs to Saudi, whether you're in Riyadh or what's the other? There's another city, Jeddah. Whether it's Riyadh or whether it's Jeddah, you keep going back there because you keep getting this Saudi money to a place that still does not have full rights for women, but you continually send your business there because you make fat ass checks. Meanwhile, you dig up these corpses to put on these programs because that's what the Saudi prince wants. Because the Saudi prince wants to see these people on the program. And so you bring out these acts that sometimes have no business being in modern professional wrestling right now as a nostalgia act because this is what the Saudi audience wants to see. You take away opportunities from current talent who could be filling some of these spots, but you take them away and you give them to people who are either not full-time, who are retired, but the Saudi prince wants to see them. And it's one thing when you're doing it on a special PLE that you make specifically for them, Crown Jewel. Then you make a special Royal Rumble to do for them. Now you're taking the real Royal Rumble and you're giving it to them. And in 2027, you're taking WrestleMania and you're giving it to them. I am beyond frustrated with this aspect of World Wrestling Entertainment. Your willingness to sell this company out to the Saudi government to make fat ass checks. Listen, far be it for me from a business standpoint to tell these shareholders to not impress upon their board to fulfill their fiduciary responsibility to maximize profit. I understand that. But these two things do not seem to coexist, that you're doing that and that you're also taking care of your fan base. And maybe we can say, okay, well, they've got fan base in Saudi Arabia. Okay, this is true in a sense. I just think that subjecting the product to the whims of a foreign government with regards to what the product can be, what you can put on, who you can put on, is not what this company ever was or should ever be beholden to have to do. Are you going to tell me that WWE will be willing in the year 2026 to write stories that will culminate into WrestleMania 43? They will write stories that will be appropriate for the Saudi audience, that the Saudi audience will be accepting of. Are we not going to get a women's main event? We probably won't. I guess that's just off the board. And listen, maybe I am deaf, but when I watch the PLEs that happen over in Saudi, the women don't ever really get the same type of acknowledgement that the men get. Unless you are the top star, you just don't get it. I find that categorically and patently unfair to people who work the hardest that they've ever worked to build up to a show of shows, to get there and just be treated like an afterthought, for the crowd to not be interested, to really not be paying a lot of attention. And I'm going to say this last thing and then I'll turn the floor over to you, my friend. What American purveyor of professional wrestling, and specifically WWE, is flying to Saudi Arabia for WrestleMania? Like, who? I'm trying, you know what I mean? Like, I'm trying to understand. When we went to WrestleMania 40, I can't remember exactly how many of us pulled our money together to get that suite that we had.
I'd say over 40 people for sure.
At least, right? At least.
I mean, I don't think we're probably not doing that for Riyadh.
Oh, certainly not. Certainly not. The travel alone is ridiculous. But like the point I'm making, right, is like, let's say it was 40 of us, give or take, because I'm not entirely sure. But let's say it was 40 of us. Each one of us put in at least $2,000. What American family person is going to be able to afford to fly to Saudi, afford to pay for accommodations, get into Saudi, and be able to outbid any Saudi royal for great seats like what we were able to pull our money together and have a once-in-a-lifetime experience in Philadelphia for WrestleMania 40? You just alienate so many people. Like, it's beyond me. I cede the floor to you, my friend, because I'm not entirely sure what else I go with this that is not already just beating the horse that I just killed.
Yeah, okay. I mean, my thoughts are similar in some respects and not necessarily different. I'm just probably a little more muted, maybe a little more numbed than you to it. Sure. In that, let me start and say, yes, I too am upset that it's obviously it is a very, like you said, the corporatization. It's a very profit-driven move. And like you said, to do the back-to-back Vegas ones and then take it to Riyadh, it's kind of what I feared would happen with the TKO merger and essentially the UFC-ification of some of the events like this that are, and this bleeds into what you just said, maybe going to change the feel of what a WrestleMania is. And maybe I'm wrong, and we'll see with probably a little bit, we'll get a preview with the Royal Rumble next year, of is this going to be a destination and a crowd that is global? And I don't want to say that, the United States WrestleManias are always like global. No, it's predominantly an American audience. But there are people that travel from all over the globe to get there. Maybe it's not an overwhelming majority or even an overwhelming minority, but there are people, and it's a global event. And beyond that, when you were thinking, I was thinking, like, obviously this is going to change what WrestleMania week and WrestleMania weekend are. I highly doubt you will have the hundreds of indie shows and conventions in Riyadh around WrestleMania weekend that we do here.
Yeah.
And maybe that would or wouldn't have happened with any non-Western, I'll say, WrestleMania, and we'll just have to see. But the first one going to Saudi Arabia, it is what it is. And frankly, I'm at the point where I'm not going to get invested in, and I'm not saying you are or anyone else is, but certainly there are some people that are invested in the political and moral side of this, and for worse probably, or for better, I'm just not invested in that part of it with this, because this has already happened in other sports. It was like, just wrestling was the last holdout, and you could see when the TKO merger happened that things were going to probably be different in that regard. And that, frankly, these are very corporate driven moves. They're getting $1.5 billion to do this. And look, I get it, but it is, it's lame. That's the word I used when I texted one of my buddies when it was announced. Like, it's not gonna ruin my life. It's not gonna ruin my day. Probably not even gonna ruin that WrestleMania for me. But there's a part of me that's like, that's lame. It's no longer. It's very clearly about, let's do this where we get the most financial return, not for the aspects, like you said, of the community around wrestling and making this a showcase that travels around. It's very clear that this is one to be the highest grossing, the highest ticket, what they're going to do. I think we'll have to see, and we get Royal Rumble as a quote unquote test run to see if it really alters the booking of the show all that much. I'm honestly of the opinion that I don't think it will. And I mean, and you have very valid concerns, and I understand where you're coming from with the point about the women. I will say that maybe this is an apologist take, but WWE's work in Saudi Arabia, and look, there's plenty of points to be made about the morality of it. And again, I said that's not something I'm going to judge, especially when this is just a TV show I watch. But it does seem like WWE is either a part of or is evidence of somewhat, to some extent, changing attitudes and more progressive stances over there. The first show, women couldn't wrestle. Now we've got women's matches on the card, and we're seeing billboards with our female superstars on. I get that someone's going to hear this and roll their eyes and be like, that's the bare minimum. But it's better than nothing. We're getting somewhere. I truly think WWE is a part of that. Again, attack me, send us the hate mail on being an apologist. That's truly what I believe, to an extent, is that there is a part of this that has helped. And again, like I believe we echoed when we had our Saudi show, not however many months ago it was. Like, this is, I hope that anybody's stances that are of a moral and or political assuasion on this are sent towards a government and a regime, and not towards what I would assume is the bulk of the wrestling fans in Saudi Arabia that seem to love these shows and love the superstars and are just human beings like the rest of us. That I'm glad they will get an opportunity to experience WrestleMania in their home country. Obviously, I wish the first international WrestleMania would have gone to like a London or something, but it isn't. Look, we got 2 years to hash this out and figure it out. But like, my initial reaction was, like I said, out of the 4-letter text I sent, lame, just kind of lame. It's not, again, not gonna work me up, but it kind of just, someone snuffed out the candle. Yeah. It didn't make me overly upset, but I get why some people can be. But to me, to wrap it up, the issue I have with it is that it's an evidence that we may see more of these decisions in terms of show locations, show timing on the calendar, ticket pricing and packages being made more towards maximization of profit, which we had the interview from, I'm not sure who it was, talking about, I'm assuming you saw it if not, but in short, one of the TKO executives saying, yeah, that Vince McMahon guy, he was more worried about pricing tickets and holding shows so that family could come, and we've got a lot more room to grow in terms of maximizing revenue. And you're like, why is this? Like, it's just symptomatic of that to me more than anything else, which is what I think the lame part of it is. Yeah. But I will finish with, hey, we'll get to watch WrestleMania in the early afternoon, and it'll make for a good timing.
Yeah.
That's all I can say.
Well, let me say this. And
maybe we'll get a Legends Battle Royal.
Please don't. See, I was about to win into some goodwill and like.
But that's fun.
And I don't want that. I don't want a Legends Battle Royal.
But it's contained to one match. No, that would be fun. No, a Legends Battle Royal would be fun.
Man, listen, I don't want to see blown out knees. I listen.
That's fair. That's fair, but that's why Battle Royal. Just pick a corner, grab a hold, do your entrance, get out of there.
But and if I'm being honest, bro, like I'm gonna say this real quick because I appreciate you as a friend, and you really brought me around to some better thoughts, and I want to leave it there. But the second you start talking about bringing back a bunch of legends, I'm starting to get mad again. Like,
because I will say this: I saw a picture from the press conference, and maybe it was just a badly timed picture, but you've got this look on Taker and Shawn's face where they're almost like, fuck, I gotta get in shape.
I swear, dude, I saw a video. So I was clued in to what this press conference may be as I was scrolling through some videos earlier today before the press conference. And the thumbnail for this video that clued me in was a picture of Triple H and Shawn Michaels as older wrestlers in Saudi Arabia, right? And they were like, not this again. That was the caption for the video, right? And it made me think, okay, they're talking about Saudi Mania. And I saw Triple H and Shawn Michaels. And then the press conference starts, and I see The Undertaker and Shawn Michaels. And I'd heard something where somebody was talking about Shawn Michaels has been getting in shape. And I was like, no.
I just sent you the picture I saw.
I was just like, no, dude. Like, I don't, as much as I do not think that will happen. I really, and again, maybe it's wishful thinking, but like, I don't think they'll do it for WrestleMania beyond like a battle royal or something. So I'm looking at this picture. I remember seeing this.
Is that not the look on their face where they're like,
dude, they look like hostages. Sorry. They all look like hostages to this thing. Like I know
some of them did, except for I saw Liv and Bianca were smiling a lot, but maybe they're just better at it. But everyone else was not. Was not into pretending to be happy to be there for whatever reason.
No,
I'm sure even at the base of it, they're like, why am I dragged here for this?
And listen, we didn't mention this earlier, but bro, the glaze that was being spread all over this Saudi Minister of Sports donut was impressive. Joe Tessitore
paid a lot of money for it.
I'm just saying, you can tell. You can tell because I have not seen them glaze up somebody this much ever. But it was like nothing I had ever seen before. And I'm just like,
I heard it. That's why I got to think. I wonder what the figure is. Like, it's got to be. Not that it justifies it, but it's got to be an absurd amount of this.
It probably is, right? And that's the thing that gets me too. Because I'm going to say this, right? I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
You convinced me in a way to understand that this is indeed an opportunity for another set of wrestling fans to get WrestleMania in their neck of the woods. And that my real issue stems from what the corporatization of WWE is now looking like. It's just a damn shame that
really is
going to Saudi in front of this group of fans is the expression of that corporatization, right? It's lame that is the case. It is lame that I see these people glazing and bending the knee to continue to glaze the Saudis as in a way that they have not done for any other international audience that they have gone and taken a show to. I have never once seen them go to any other country in the UK or otherwise and roll out like the minister of sports and glaze them up in the way that they just did for the Saudis. And you know what I'm saying? Like, I've never seen them do that, but they do it here, right? They just roll out the red carpet, put those knee pads on and glaze away. And it's pathetic. It is pathetic to see. It is pathetic to watch, but it's what people do when they acquiesce to the money. And that's what's lame to me is watching. And
I don't think, let's separate what is WWE and those people from TKO. I doubt this was Triple H's happiest or proudest moment in charge.
Sure.
I'm sure this was I'm sure there was a deep breath and let's put on a brave face and let's go to work and do what you got to do.
Oh, dude, I'm sure. Look, it was written all over It was written all over Shawn Michaels, Undertaker, and the majority of the people there's face besides Liv Morgan and Bianca's face, right?
Because they know it's selling out. And that's what it is. They
know, and that's part of what makes it suck even more. Is because we know why they're doing it. Like, we know why they're doing it, and it's like it just. I love professional wrestling, and because I love professional wrestling, I think I will always be a fan. I will always be a fan. I will always be a supporter of the product, and I will always be a supporter. Let me rephrase that. I will always be a supporter of the men and women who put these shows on, who put their bodies on the line, who sacrifice time and energy and money to do what it is that they do and to provide this form of entertainment for us all. That being said, I genuinely have not decided yet if I believe that at this point in my understanding of how Netflix tracks metrics, and these are all things we talked about on the shows prior, but they all culminate into something like this. I'm not sure if I am aware at this point as a fan of professional wrestling who watches the product, how much my viewership matters at all to WWE anymore. When the show was on cable, I could understand why my viewership mattered, right? Because those weekly ratings mattered. That was drawing power for renegotiating contracts, right? That's the WWE's benefit. And as far as the network's benefit is concerned, right? We get our shows via a cable subscription service with a bunch of other channels, right? So there is something that they gain from having higher ratings than other shows and other time slots on different channels. Netflix pays the money up front. I don't know how Netflix aggregates viewership and what that viewership even means to WWE or Netflix. I'm not entirely sure how that works. I'm not even claimed to know. But what it does lend to is this idea that my viewership takes on a whole different aspect that I don't understand. Now, with the merger with UFC into TKO and the corporatization here, it also then appears like the viewers and the fans, as far as American fans are concerned, or let me rephrase, it's not even just American fans, it's just fans in general, that pleasing the fan base is not where the primary focus is anymore. As you stated with that person on TKO's side said, right, that Vince was trying to cater, at least in theory, more to the idea of making the product accessible to the fans.
Yeah, I I just thought of something. I'll come in after you say.
But TKO seems to be more invested in how much money they can make. And if you're going to open this door, which is wherever we can make the most money is where we're going to go. That's where our focus is going to be. I see more and more and more of our shows going to Saudi Arabia. I see less and less shows coming to places like Norfolk, Virginia. Like, I'm just being honest, Skeens, because the scope is not a big arena. It's just not.
You are not wrong.
You know what I mean? And it's like, we're fortunate that the show even still comes here. But if the focus is not on delivering the product to the fans anymore, and it's about making the most money, they'll bypass a place like Norfolk for places like Indianapolis. Or you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, you want me? Well, I'll just give this to you now while you're on a roll.
Yeah.
So they announced they are not doing the traditional Christmas Madison Square Garden date. They are going to Baltimore instead. So the long-standing house show tradition is ending.
And they're probably doing that because they can make more money in Baltimore.
I would yeah, you want to think that, but could that even be true? Wouldn't they draw more at?
It depends on. I mean, if you draw more like MSG. I mean, it's possible, but I mean, if that's the case, why would they change it?
But you're right. But again, it's a thing that it's like we're slowly the corporatization is chipping away at what was a kind of a cornerstone tradition of the old wrestling company that this was.
Yeah.
To issue in more of the, now it is a very corporate, money-driven machine. But while you were speaking and you were talking about, and you brought back up what the guy said about like Vince was focused on making it affordable for families. What I thought about was, are you a Dave Chappelle guy?
Yes, I do like Dave Chappelle. So I follow his stuff.
In his stand-up there, he did this bit one time about Michael Jackson and how Chappelle was saying he understood that whatever procedures or skincare routine Michael Jackson had done, that he understood that Michael did that for his fans, and that even if it didn't come out well, he was doing that for you, and thought that you'd like him better if he did that. And that's what I was just thinking about that in terms of Vince McMahon. And he may have booked some stuff that people hated, but in his own way, he was doing that for you because he thought you'd like it.
Sure.
And you may have not liked the big golden egg, but he did that because he thought you'd like it. Because he liked it.
Yeah.
And TKO is not going to have any big golden eggs because it's not going to make him any money.
No.
And I just laughed at that.
No, I agree, dude. And look, the storytelling that they're doing currently is some of the best that they've ever done writ large, right?
Because I think that's a decision made by Triple H.
I agree.
And I don't know. I know absolutely nothing. I doubt Triple H was like, hell yeah, let's take WrestleMania to Saudi.
I'll be honest with you.
I know it wasn't The Undertaker and Shawn Michaels.
Listen, if it was them, they certainly have a weird way of showing their support for their own ideas. But I don't know. I don't feel like Triple H is in a position to really make those decisions.
Oh, absolutely.
On where they go. But I also don't think that Triple H and the work that he does is contingent on where they go. And because of that,
and that's why I think I do not think his work and vision will be all that compromised by having it in Saudi.
No, I
hope not.
I hope not. But what I'm saying is, I don't think that those two things that I just stated there, that he has any real say on where they go, and that what he does has any real bearing based on where they go. I don't know if Triple H cares where they go. It doesn't seem like he cares. Like,
I'm sure he doesn't care in the same way I don't care. I mean, granted, he's got to travel to everywhere and go there and, all that different stuff. But I figure he and a lot of the people that I would describe as WWE before I described them as TKO, would have rather not had this be the first international WrestleMania.
Yeah. I mean, I guess it's. I can understand why that perspective is
not that it matters in the end.
Right. I mean, what I'm saying is like
what it is.
I understand that perspective. I can understand why one may have that perspective because it's easy to maybe draw a delineation between what WWE is and what TKO is, and that there could be some sort of different mantra or different culture or different ideology behind what people's motivations are. For me, it's one of those things where the corporatization of the product makes me feel less inclined to believe that there is such a delineation. Not that I think every single person thinks the same thing, but does what you think, sir or ma'am, who works for WWE, matter in the least? No, I don't think it matters in the least. And I think that is the issue that I have. I don't think there are enough boos, downvotes, and you sold outs in the comments of that press conference to change a single thing that WWE does. None of it. And I think that is part of my issue when we're doing something like this. The plans with WrestleMania 40 changed. They changed from what they were initially going to try and do with The Rock and Roman to Cody versus Roman on night 2 with the tag match on night 1 because of the fans' backlash. That is not going to have a single bearing on anything that WrestleMania 43 has happening at all, because the audience that is going to be attending that show is not going to be the audience that is going to be complaining about the product. So if the product does not turn or shape into something that the fans agree with, fuck them. Because they're not going to be the ones who are going to be at the show. And that to me is where you start to lose the plot. You know what I mean? That's where I feel like you start to lose the plot. Because if the fans of your product already begin to feel like you don't listen to them. I'm not saying you should be listening to them and doing everything they say. We've already covered that before, right? But if you establish that your fans' voices matter very little to the product that you're putting out, then you don't have fans. You just have consumers, right? And that's what you get when you get corporatization. You're not looking at these people as fans anymore. They're looking at them like consumers, and consumers buy a product. So we're going to shovel every single thing we can shovel to you that's going to make you pay for a new subscription. Everything that's going to make you travel a further distance. We're going to raise the prices on all of these things because you're a consumer. And as long as you consume our product, you're going to pay the price. And whoever's paying the price is who we're going to give the product to. And we're going to shape and tailor the product to what is A, going to make us more money, and B, to who's going to consume it. That is what corporatization looks like. And to what degree this is going to impact the product that we all love is yet to be seen. But what we can see is that they are more than willing to break established norms. They're more than willing to ship off the product into avenues and spaces that will pay the most money. And, you know, to the people who have complaints or issues with it, be damned. You don't think that the people in New Orleans were very upset with the fact that WrestleMania was supposed to be coming back to them and then they lost it? Like that, Virginia gets nothing, right? And most of that is Virginia's fault, straight up. But Virginia gets nothing. If Virginia were to have gone through the infrastructure project that they were supposed to do like 10 or 15 years ago, right? And they built the sports arena in Virginia Beach like they were going to do. And they built this thing up and it was an incredible new complex. Bro, if we got the bid for WrestleMania 41, 42, and then we lost it to Vegas because Vegas was willing to pay more money after we won the bid, dude, I'd be insanely furious. We've never had an event here. And then to lose it because WrestleMania now is a money grab and whoever pays the most money is going to get it. Like, how does this impact our PLEs moving forward, because there are only certain number of cities that are going to be able to pull enough capital to rope certain things in. And if WWE is just going to go to where the biggest bidders are, then we're going to have PLEs like WrestleMania happening in Los Angeles, LA, Texas, maybe New York. And that's it. You know what I mean? Like, it's not going anywhere else but those places. Like, Philly's going to have a hard time getting the bid back again, because as much as Philly's Mania was great, right? I don't think Philly's is going to be able to put out the type of money that Vegas is able to put out. And now you've got Saudi in the mix, bro. It's just a wild thing to think about.
It's concerning in that way for WrestleMania, at least. I'm going to try to not, fear the worst in that regard, but it is certainly, and, the last thing I'll say on it is more than what I describe as, was my 4-letter description of it was lame.
Yeah.
The part of it that is lame to me is not necessarily a WrestleMania happening in Riyadh. It's lame that this is another telling symptom of what you call the corporatization. Yeah. And that everything being driven by the profit grab and not necessarily the best interest of the product as a wrestling show.
I agree.
But more about how can this wrestling show make the most money.
I agree. And that's where I will leave it to, because at the end of the day,
so you saw that picture I sent you.
Yeah.
And I'll crop out the little caption, but I do want to put that. I am going to put that up on Instagram, because Sean's face to me just is.
It looks troubled.
Complete. Yes. Because he's thinking, I could have been in Orlando making TikTok videos with 15 really good looking young ladies. And instead I'm here. Mm-hmm. What am I doing here?
He and Taker look troubled because.
Oh, and Taker could have been home. Taker could have been home with his kid.
Yep. And now you're going to have to start getting back into the ring and possibly, knocking the ring rust off.
Taker looks like he's having flashbacks to that tag match.
Man, listen, I am going to leave it there, because my genuine sentiments are the same. And if there are any listeners that we have in Saudi Arabia, let me tell you that I love you too. And I agree with Skeens. I'll leave it there. I agree with Skeens that the corporatization of WWE is troubling to me. And what this could become based on what their profit motives appear to be is worrying to me. And as a wrestling fan, I am happy that you all are getting WrestleMania and Royal Rumble in the next 2 years. I just am concerned with what this business and this product is turning into, because I do not genuinely feel like WWE taking this product to Saudi Arabia is because they want to get this product in front of you guys as fans of professional wrestling. They're going because the check is fat, and whoever pays the biggest check is where the product is going to go. And I just feel like this is emblematic of other things that could continue to grow and fester within the world of world wrestling entertainment if the profit motive is the main motivation for why the business does what it does. There could be some really interesting and scary implications that could come from that, at least as wrestling fans. But one thing that I am genuinely happy about is the fact that we have a space here where we can have these conversations. I was genuinely thinking about this before we got on, Skeens. And I was talking to my wife.
It's an outlet.
Yeah. I was talking to my wife about this before I got home today. And I'm telling her my unfiltered feelings about the press conference. And she said to me, well, the good thing is, with the Lariat Lounge being what it is, at least you guys are giving an outlet to people online who may share the same sentiments and are not going to get takes like this anywhere else. And I agree. We open up a space for real conversations and real talk, and we invite everyone to participate and to lend their feelings, because Skeener and I, if nothing else, we are always honest with each other, and we're honest with you all. And we will always do that. And we will always continue to be honest, whether we agree or we disagree. What you can honestly agree on is that we will give it to you straight. So we appreciate you guys coming out, hanging out with us. And yeah, this is always going to be a space for you guys to come and kick it and get some real talk. And honestly, some hard takes, because there's some hard takes here. But we do appreciate you guys.
Tough takes, some great takes, maybe some horrible takes.
Maybe some horrible ones.
But there will be takes.
There will always be takes here. We will show up and we will show out for you guys. Skeener, let our friends know where they can check out this picture of Taker and Sean looking like they are totally not prepared for what's coming their way the next 2 years, and where they can interact with us for some polls that may go up. In fact, Skeener, let's put a poll up when you do that photo.
Legends Battle Royal, thumbs up or thumbs down.
We can do that one. Sure. Let's also, I want to get an idea of what our listeners think about WrestleMania 43 going to Saudi Arabia. Do you like this move? Do you not like this move? Or are you kind of indifferent? I would love to hear what you guys think, how you guys feel about this. Leave comments, send us emails. Skeener, let our friends know where they can do all that.
You're going to see that poll soon, and that lovely picture of Sean and Taker looking thrilled about this announcement at the Lariat Lounge podcast on Instagram. That's where you can send us your thoughts, your DMs. We'll put that poll up, that poll and the open-ended question, but feel free, just anytime, hit up the inbox with your thoughts, filtered or unfiltered. If social media is not your thing, send us an email at thelariatlounge@gmail.com. And as you know, you're here. We're coming at you once a week, at least every week. iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, all your favorite podcast platforms. That's how you can hop in the lounge and join us for all the takes that come your way.
Guys, we love you all. We appreciate you guys coming out and spending a few hours with us. We always appreciate it. Make sure you come back next week for another edition of the Lariat Lounge. And next weekend will be WrestlePalooza, the first one. Skeener and I will be on Lariat Lounge Live. Make sure you get your pizza ready. Make sure you get the beverage of your choice ready. Show up, hang out, have fun, because we'll absolutely be there. From your host, Everson Godfrey, and co-host Andrew Skeens, this has been another edition of the Lariat Lounge. Please watch yourself on the way out.